Okay, let's dive into something that feels like, I mean, it feels like it was ripped straight out of a noir novel, but it's actually this masterclass in modern forensics.
It really is.
We are heading back to June 2007, out to the high desert of Grand Junction, Colorado. This case is, well, it's heavy. It's got layers. It's about a woman named Paige Birgfeld.
And it's such a fascinating case study. Tragic, of course.
Yeah.
But it's one of those situations where the public narrative and the private reality were just completely at odds.
Right, because on the surface, Paige is the ultimate supermom. That's literally what people called her.
Mm-hmm.
She's living in this $1 million home on Easter Court. She's got 3 kids. She's selling Pampered Chef kitchenware, running a dance business for preschoolers. She is the picture of suburban stability.
Exactly. She was the one bringing the orange slices to the soccer games.
Yeah.
But when we, peel back the layers of the source material here, we find that the supermom image was, in many ways, a construct, a very carefully maintained illusion.
And that's the core conflict here. Because to keep that $1 million lifestyle afloat, she had a secret life. And I don't use that term lightly. She was running a high-end escort service called Models, Inc.
And she wasn't just running the books. She was an active provider under the alias Carrie. But before we get too focused on the sensational aspect of that, we need to frame our mission for this deep dive.
Okay.
We aren't here to judge the lifestyle. We are here to look at the investigation. This case is the definition of a circumstantial mosaic.
I love that term, circumstantial mosaic, but I feel like in legal dramas, circumstantial is usually used as an insult. Like, oh, you only have circumstantial evidence.
That is the biggest misconception in criminal law.
Mm.
People think you need a smoking gun, a video of the crime, a confession, or DNA on the murder weapon.
Right.
But in the Paige Birgfeld case, for a very long time, there was no smoking gun. There wasn't even a body.
So how do you solve a murder without a body or weapon?
You build a picture. You take hundreds of tiny, jagged shards, digital forensics, behavioral profiling, incredibly specific physical clues, and you glue them together until the image of the killer is so clear that no other explanation makes sense. That is the mosaic.
Okay, let's start building that mosaic then. We need to understand Paige. We know she was a dedicated mom, but she was under massive financial pressure, right?
Massive. She was 34, twice divorced, and the sole custodian of 3 kids, Jess, Taft, and Cole. The legitimate businesses, the kitchenware, and the dance classes, they were bringing in pennies compared to the mortgage on a $1 million home.
And that desperation is what led to Models, Inc.
It seems to be the wedge that split her life in two. Yeah. And this brings us to a really important concept in criminology called routine activity theory.
Okay, break that down for me.
So, for a predatory crime to occur, you generally need 3 elements to converge in space and time. First, you need a motivated offender. Second, a suitable target.
Right.
And third, and this is the key, the absence of a capable guardian.
A capable guardian being like a security guard.
Right.
Or a camera.
Or even just a friend, a coworker, a spouse, someone who was watching. When Paige became Carrie, she systematically removed all capable guardianship. She was meeting anonymous men, often using fake names, in uncontrolled environments like motels or private homes. She was operating in a complete silo. Her family, her neighbors, her daughter Jess had zero idea this side of her life existed.
That compartmentalization must have been a nightmare for detectives. You're trying to find a missing person, but half her life is locked away on burner phones?
It created a massive investigative barrier. Detectives had to sift through aliases and prepaid phones just to figure out who she was even meeting. But it also triggers a sociological issue we have to acknowledge: the missing white woman syndrome.
That's the media bias, right? Where certain victims get wall-to-wall coverage?
Exactly. Initially, the media was obsessed with the missing soccer mom. It fits the narrative.
Yeah.
But the moment the Models Inc. connection leaked,
The narrative shifted.
instantly, there's a heavy stigma. It went from, let's find this poor mother, to sort of, well, look what she was doing.
And that victim blaming, it complicates the prosecution later on.
Precisely. It muddies the waters. The defense can suggest that because she was a sex worker, she inherently invited violence, or that anyone could have done it.
Let's get to the timeline, because this is where the mosaic starts to get sticky. June 28th, 2007.
This is the anchor date. It starts surprisingly normally. Paige drives about 100 miles east to Eagle, Colorado, to have a picnic with her first ex-husband, Ron Bagler.
Ex-husband. Usually the ex is the first suspect.
And he was looked at, but in this case, he's actually the alibi in the baseline. They were on good terms. This picnic establishes that Paige was in a good state of mind. She wasn't planning to run away. She had a nice afternoon, and then she got back in her car to drive home.
And this is where the duality kicks in, the drive home.
Right. As she's driving west on I-70, Supermom fades out and Carrie clocks in. She starts managing requests for Models, Inc. There's a guy named John Livingston waiting for her at a Motel 6.
But he's not the guy.
No, he's a dead end. The critical data points are the calls between Paige and a specific track phone number.
A prepaid phone. A burner.
Exactly. And we will come back to who held that phone, because that is the thread that unravels everything. But first, the time. 8:57 p.m. Paige is on the phone with the Rumbagler again. Just a quick check-in.
And that's the last time.
That is the last time anyone who loved her ever heard their voice.
Okay, so she's on the phone. Now, this is 2007. We all have GPS in our pockets now, but back then, tracking a phone, it wasn't as precise.
Right,
Yeah.
Not at all. That is a crucial distinction. Today, we can pinpoint you to within a few meters. In 2007, investigators relied on cell tower triangulation. It's more of a cone of probability, not a dot on a map.
So they can tell which side of the tower you're on, but not exactly where you are.
Correct. But in this case, the data was specific enough. At 8:57 p.m., her cell pinged off a tower that placed her near the intersection of 23 Road and G Road in Grand Junction.
To me, that's just an intersection, but when detectives saw that...
It didn't just ring a bell, it set off sirens. Because directly across the street from where her phone pinged is a business called Bob Scott's RV Repair.
Okay. And I'm assuming that's relevant.
It is deeply relevant. Because working at that shop was a mechanic named Lester Ralph Jones.
So she vanishes literally on his doorstep.
Essentially. After that 8:57 p.m. call, her phone goes dead. At 10:34 p.m., that client, John Livingston, leaves a voicemail asking, "Is anyone coming?" She never responds. The silence begins.
Okay, so she disappears Thursday night. 3 days later, July 1st, we get the first massive physical clue. And it's not subtle.
Not at all. Her red Ford Focus is found in the parking lot of Walker SMS, a heavy equipment lot. But it wasn't just parked there. It was fully engulfed in flames.
Someone torched it to destroy evidence.
Exactly. Wipe the slate clean. But criminals panic. They make mistakes.
Huge mistakes, it sounds like.
Huge. First, look at where the car was found. Walker SMS is located, wait for it, directly across the street from Bob Scott's RV Repair.
Wait, really? The suspect works at the RV shop and he burns the car across the street from his job. That's incredibly risky or arrogant.
It's a bizarre mix of both. But the fire didn't do its job. It didn't destroy everything. Investigators found 2 pieces of behavioral evidence that were devastating for Lester Jones.
What survived?
The driver's seat mechanism. Now remember, Paige Birgfeld was petite. She was about 5'4".
So she'd have the seat pulled pretty far forward.
Exactly. But when they analyzed the mechanism of the burned car, the driver's seat was pushed back to the furthest possible setting. It was set up for someone, well, someone over 6 feet.
And Lester Jones.
He stands 6'4". It is a mechanical fact that Paige could not have driven the car in that position. Her feet wouldn't have even touched the pedals.
That is chilling. It puts a giant ghost in the driver's seat. What was the second thing?
The scent dogs. And these were bloodhounds trained in scent discrimination. They can track a specific human trail from a source scent.
So they give the dog a smell from inside the car.
Yes. They took a scent from the driver's seat of that burned car. The dogs picked up the trail, and they walked directly across the street to the front door of Bob Scott's RV Repair.
Wow. That is a literal line connecting the crime scene to the suspect's workplace.
And once inside, they found a gas can near Jones's workstation. So you have the location, the seat, the dog track, and the accelerant container all clustering around Lester Jones.
So we have the car, we have the suspect linked to the car, but there was another trail of evidence, wasn't there? This one was miles away.
This is what we call the breadcrumbs. This is the part of the case that I find the most haunting. Along a 14-mile stretch of Highway 50, heading southeast toward Delta, police started finding Paige's personal belongings.
Just thrown on the side of the road.
Strewn along the shoulder, her driver's license, Models, Inc., business cards, personal checks, her kids' health insurance cards.
Why? If you're the kidnapper, why are you letting her toss stuff out the window?
You likely aren't letting her. The leading theory is that Paige was alive when she was being transported. She realized what was happening, her phone was gone, and she started surreptitiously throwing items out the window.
That is incredible presence of mind.
It demonstrates immense situational awareness. In the middle of her own abduction, she was leaving a map for the police. She was saying, "I'm going this way," pointing them toward where her body would eventually be found.
Let's talk about the man at the center of this. Lester Ralph Jones. What else do we know about him? Was this his first rodeo?
Absolutely not. He wasn't just a mechanic. He was a predator with a very specific history. In 1999, he attacked his then-wife, Lisa Jones. And the details are, they're essentially a blueprint for this case.
A blueprint how?
He rammed her car, fired shots, kidnapped her, and drove her to a remote location while threatening to kill her.
So he has a history of vehicular violence and abduction, a modus operandi.
A template. Exactly. But the thing that really nailed him, arguably more than the history, was that track phone we mentioned. This is the digital smoking gun.
Right, the burner phone. Why was this specific phone so important?
It's about the exclusivity of the data. Jones bought this phone with cash and a fake name at a Walmart 2 days before the murder. That's premeditation. But he didn't use it to call his mom or order a pizza.
He only called
one number. He used it for one purpose and one purpose only, to contact Models, Inc. And after Paige disappeared,
it went dark.
Completely. As soon as Paige was abducted, that phone was never used again. It's mathematically impossible to ignore. He buys a secret phone, uses it only to lure her, and then discards it the moment she's gone.
So pause for a second. You have the phone, the car, the dogs, the history, the seat position. Why wasn't he arrested immediately? Why did this go cold?
Because of a legal hurdle called corpus delicti.
Latin for body of the crime?
Roughly, yes. It's a fundamental principle. Basically, you can't convict someone of a crime unless you can prove that a crime actually occurred. Without a body, it's very hard to prove a murder happened.
I see. So the defense could just say, she ran away.
Exactly. And they would have. They would argue that Paige, overwhelmed by her double life and the debt, just walked away. A gone girl scenario.
That must have been agonizing for the family, knowing she wouldn't leave her kids, but not being able to prove it legally.
It lasted 5 years. 5 years of limbo. Until March 6th, 2012. A hiker was walking in a dry creek bed in Wells Gulch.
Which is exactly where those breadcrumbs on Highway 50 were pointing.
Precisely. The map she left worked. It just took time to read it. The hiker found skeletal remains. Dental records confirmed it was Paige.
And the bones. They told a story.
They changed the entire legal landscape. Forensic anthropology revealed a severe fracture to her cheekbone. His perimortem happened at or near the time of death. This wasn't an accident. Someone struck her with massive blunt force.
So the she ran away theory is dead.
Completely. And there was something else found with the remains. Duct tape, wrapped around the skull and jaw area. That is a signature of kidnapping and homicide. It proved this was a violent execution.
So now they have the body, the cause of death, and the circumstantial mosaic. They arrest Jones. But the first trial in 2016 didn't go as planned.
It ended in a mistrial. A hung jury.
How? With all that evidence, that seems insane.
It brings us back to the Models, Inc. element. The defense used a strategy called SODI. Some other dude did it.
SODI, that's a real legal term.
It's the informal name, yeah. They pointed to other clients she had met. They exploited the anonymity of her client list. They basically said, look, this woman met strangers in hotel rooms. It could have been anyone. They used the stigma of her profession to create reasonable doubt.
And without DNA connecting Jones directly to Paige's body, some jurors just couldn't get there.
Right. Circumstantial evidence requires you to trust the pattern. Some people struggle with that. But the prosecution didn't give up. They went for a retrial almost immediately.
How did they change their approach the second time?
They tightened the mosaic as it went on offense. They aggressively dismantled the alternate suspects. They showed that the coincidence of the track phone bought by Jones, used only for Paige, silencing at her death, wasn't just suspicious, it was damning.
And the second jury agreed.
They did. December 27, 2016, Lester Ralph Jones was found guilty of first-degree murder and second-degree kidnapping, sentenced to life without parole.
I know there was an appeal recently in 2022. Did that change anything?
Not for Jones's freedom. The court vacated a second-degree murder charge on a legal technicality, but the first-degree murder conviction and the life sentence stand firm. He is never getting out.
So when we zoom out, what is the takeaway here? Is it about the technology or the police work?
I think it's about the integration of technology and human behavior. It's a validation of the circumstantial mosaic. The digital breadcrumbs from the cell towers align perfectly with the physical breadcrumbs Paige throughout the window.
It really highlights the tragedy of what you called the compartmentalized predator.
That's exactly what Jones was. He thought he could exploit the vulnerabilities of the sex trade. He likely assumed that because Paige was a sex worker, the police wouldn't look too hard. He banked on her being a lesser victim.
But he was wrong.
He was. It just required modern data analysis to catch up with his old-school predatory tactics.
It's a harrowing case, but I think the thing that sticks with me is that image of the cards on the highway.
Me too. It's the human element in the middle of all the forensics.
Here is a final thought for you to chew on. We talk about Paige leaving those items as a sign of resistance. It makes you wonder, in an age where we are constantly tracked by our own devices, was Paige Birgfeld one of the last victims who had to manually create her own digital footprint to be found? Today, our phones do that for us automatically. But in 2007, her instinct to physically throw pieces of her identity out the window is what ultimately confirmed the route to her resting place.
That is a profound thought. The technology solved the case, but her human instinct provided the map.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.